Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Aruna Dorairaj. So today I'm back with another video. This is a teaching video and today we are going to learn Unit 8 Food Preservation. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, turn on post notification and give this video a big thumbs up. In this video, we'll be learning definition and purpose of food preservation, food spoilage, characteristics of food spoilage, causes of food spoilage, methods of food preservation, and lastly, the importance of food preservation technology. So first, let's see the definition and purpose of food preservation. So food preservation means a method of processing food, but it is to prevent or slow down the life processes of microorganisms. So you are processing a food in a different way to prevent or slow down the life processes of microorganisms. Don't worry if you don't understand, we can learn about this more in the next slide. Okay everyone, now let's see about food spoilage. So, how do you know a food is spoiled? Example, you're taking a bread from your shelf and after that you just think that that food is spoiled, that bread is spoiled. But how do you know it is spoiled? First, because you smell it. Second of all, because you taste it. And lastly, because you see or observe that bread or any food. So let's look about this more deeply. First, let's see about proteins. So proteins consist of meat, egg, fish, chicken, and so on. First, they produce unpleasant smell. Unpleasant smell means a very smelly smell. Secondly, it has a slimy texture. It means it's very sticky or smooth. It loses its original texture. Second, carbohydrates. So carbohydrates such as breads, rice, noodles, and so on. First, it becomes soft. So usually carbohydrates like rice, it holds on its shape and it's very firm. But when it's spoiled, it becomes soft and slimy. Then presence of dark spots. So dark spots mean molds. And lastly, it smells sour. It produces like this acidic smell towards the food. Thirdly, vitamins. So vitamins first it changes texture, so it becomes wilt. Second, it changes color. So usually fresh vegetables, it is green, but when it's already spoiled, it changes its color to yellow. And lastly, it becomes moldy. Next, drinks. So drinks are such as milk, vegetable juice, fruit juice, and so on. First, it becomes frothy. So frothy means tiny bubbles. Second, it tastes sour. So usually milk, when you drink it, it's very sweet, fresh, but once it spoils, then it is sour. Lastly, it produces unpleasant smell, which is also known as smelly smell. And why all this happens? Because of the actions of microorganisms or because microorganisms, they carry out their life processes such as breathing, growing, and so on. That is why our food is spoiled. So before I move on to the next slide, let me just tell you a fun fact. So this fun fact is about expiry date. Use before and best before. So when we say use before, it means we definitely have to consume the food before the date given. But best before means we can either consume the food before or after the date given if the food is still in a good condition. All of you understand, right? Let's move on to the next slide. Next everyone, let's move on to food preservation methods. So food preservation method means you're processing the food in a different way in order to prevent or slow down the life process of microorganisms, such as the growth of microorganisms. So when we carry out these food preservation methods, the food is going to last longer, not never become spoiled. It is just going to last longer. Eventually, one day it is going to be spoiled. First, boiling. So boiling is the process of heating food at high temperature. So as you see here, they are boiling the potatoes. So what happened? Most microorganisms are killed because the high temperature. As we all of us know, microorganisms need suitable temperature to grow. Example, room temperature. But when it's boiled, it dies because it is exposed to a very high temperature. Next is pickling. So pickling means a process of braining food in a sugar or salt solution. So this method is commonly used to preserve food and vegetables. So it is used usually for fruits and vegetables. So how do you do pickling? Well, you just put salt and you put sugar inside the water. Then after that, you put the fruits or vegetables into that sugar or salt solution. Then after that, you just keep it in a bottle or jar. Then you can consume the pickle whenever you want. So if you want to see more details about the pickle and how you want to do pickle, just click the link below in the description how to do spicy mango pickle. Next, vacuum packing. So vacuum packing is a process of removing air from a container or food packaging. So why we are removing air? Because microorganisms need air. Without air, the bacteria cannot grow and reproduce. Next, drying. So drying is the method of removing or getting rid of most of the water from the food. Food can be dried under the sun or in an oven. So when you dry it, the moisture on the food or the water in the food, you can get rid. So when you can get rid of the water, you can also inhibit the growth of microorganisms, which means you can prevent the growth of microorganisms because microorganisms need nutrients or water to grow and reproduce. Next is freezing and cooling. So freezing is the process of keeping food at the freezing point 0 degrees Celsius, and cooling means the process of keeping food in a surrounding temperature below 18 degrees Celsius. Lower temperature causes microorganisms to become less active. They also grow and reproduce at a slower rate. So when we put it in a high temperature, most microorganisms will die. But when we put it in a cold temperature, the microorganisms will be inactive. So after you put it in the fridge, then you take out and put for one day, eventually the food is going to be spoiled because the microorganism is becoming active again. Next is salting. So what is salting? Salting means you are using salt to remove moisture from the food. That means you are removing the water from the food. So this method is actually used for a long time already from now. It is used to salt fish, eggs and vegetables. Usually we can buy salted fish, salted eggs from the supermarket. So it is actually preserved. So that is why we are buying salting fish and salted eggs and salted vegetables also. Next, waxing. So waxing is the process of coating fruits and vegetables such as apples, oranges, lemons and tomatoes with a liquid wax to prevent the growth of microorganisms on their surface. This method also helps to retain the freshness of the food. So usually many fruits has this. All the apples when we have this waxing method. Apples that we buy, Fuji apple, it has the waxing method. So why they are doing this? To prevent the growth of microorganisms on their surface. And eventually when you wax it, you can also remain the freshness in the food. Next, canning and bottling. Canning and bottling involve the process of boiling food to kill microorganisms. The food is then left to cool and put in an airtight container. So heating at boiling temperature kills most bacteria that are active without affecting much the taste and nutritional value of the food. So that means you're preserving it without affecting any taste or nutrition from the food. Okay? Okay, bear with me, we are almost there. Pasteurization. So pasteurization is a process of heating food to a certain temperature for some time and followed by rapid cooling. So you are heating it, then you are cooling it rapidly. Okay, so fast you're killing it. So this method is usually used for milk, but it can also be used for vegetable juice or fruit juice. Lastly, smoking. So smoking is a method of drying food with smoke for a long period of time. This method inhibits the growth of microorganisms. So they are drying it under the smoke. So drying method is drying it under the sun, but smoking you are drying it under the smoke. But the function is the same. It inhibits the growth of microorganisms. Okay everyone, now let's see the importance of food preservation. So when we can just eat the food, why we have to preserve it? Well, first of all, you can overcome food shortage. Example, a district or a village is having flood. So what will happen? Their crops, their vegetable, all will be destroyed. So what they can eat? So they will eat preserved food. Usually if you see them, they will eat like tin sardine, tin fruits, because that's the only preserved food that they can eat. Because all the other fresh foods will be already destroyed in the flooded place. Or other natural disasters can also be acceptable. Number two, food produced by one country can be enjoyed in other country. Example, you're Malaysian, but then you went to London. Then after some time, you feel that you want to eat Malaysian rendang. So what you are doing? You are going to a grocery to buy the packet of Malaysian chicken rendang. So it is vacuum packed and you're buying it so that you can cook it at your house. So how you can do that? Because the food is preserved. Thirdly, seasonal food is always available. Example, durians. So usually durians, they are not seldom found. It's very hard to find because their season is only sometimes. But how every time we can see durian, even it's not easy to look for durian, but we can still find durian in certain place. How? Because the durian is preserved. Fourthly, easy to store or to transport. More than you put the fresh chicken inside a plastic bag with the bloods and then you transport it to other country, you can either put it in a vacuum pack and then or you can boil it and put it in a container, airtight container. You can smoke it, so you can use many preservation method in order to store and transport it easily. Lastly, it can be stored longer and meet the demands for food supply throughout the year. So that means the food that you want can be get anytime, anywhere, because the food is preserved. So I hope all of you understand this whole topic of food preservation. We are done. And lastly, so everyone, quiz time, trivia time. First, explain what is the advantage of food preservation. So advantage means the importance of food preservation. So overcome food shortage, some food produced by one country can be enjoyed in other countries, seasonal food is always available, etc. Okay, number two, state 10 examples of food preservation. So 10, they are asking for 10. It means they want all the food preservation methods: boiling, pickling, vacuum packing, drying, freezing and cooling, salting, waxing, canning and bottling, pasteurization, and lastly smoking. Well done everyone. Thirdly, state two preserving method Pa Ali can use to preserve the fish that he bought from the supermarket yesterday. So fish. So fish, what we usually do? We freeze it and we salt it. So they asked two, so you write two. Thank you so much everyone for watching. All the information in this slide is taken from Google Science Textbook Year 6 and slide taken from slidescore.com. So make sure you subscribe, turn on post notification and give this video a big thumbs up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.